Long legs. Oh, your legs are so
Oh,
long.
scary. I'm gonna run away now. Bye.
Oh, on your long legs.
So,
Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
and I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for all things scary and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome, everyone. Such a fun and exciting day, like it always is when we're up here discussing all the horror things. But today, especially, because we're talking about the 2024 supernatural horror thriller film Longlegs.
Long legs. Oh, your legs are so long.
Oh, scary. I'm going to run away now. Bye.
Oh, on your long legs.
So, this film was written and directed by Osgood Perkins, and it stars Micah Monroe, Nicolas Cage, who produced this film through his film company, Saturn, which I didn't realize that he had his own producing company. And it is also alongside Blair Underwood, which I also didn't know was in this movie. So that was an exciting thing to see.
I didn't either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because he was like nowhere. I mean, the trailer really didn't give a lot of stuff, which I love, and that's fine.
Right.
But
I may have known it like at one point, but like when I was still surprised when he showed up in the movie. I was pleasantly so.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I love Blair Underwood. He's just an incredible actor and also gorgeous to look at. So 10 out of 10 for him being in this. But also alongside Alicia Witt and Michelle Choi Lee. So heavy spoilers for all things Longlegs. And Jamie, please give us those trigger warnings.
This movie has a lot of triggers. That's my trigger warning for trigger warnings. Should we start doing that? Warn people
Trigger
before
warning
they
for
have to
trigger
hear all of them, especially if it's really bad.
Yeah, trigger warning for the trigger warnings.
Yeah. So this movie centers around murder suicides involving whole families, so parents, children, and there's also references to Satan. There's a lot of just like references to pretty gruesome insides on the outsides happening, and some pretty upsetting dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Creepy dolls.
Just creepy dolls, man. Not for me. And
Devil balls.
Ooh, what a phrase. All
yep,
of the
devil balls, the occult,
Yeah.
serial killers, like FBI procedural.
Devil balls.
It's a lot going on here.
Tell us how you really feel, Brian.
I fucking hated the devil balls, and we'll get to that.
Very, very excited. Yes. Okay, is that all for trigger warnings, Jamie? Is that pretty much it?
Think so. I
You already said gun violence
just
and
like
all
a
that
lot
stuff,
of yeah. I mean, like just a lot of like violent imagery, gun violence, knife
Snakes?
violence,
Aye.
snakes being.
At least they're not on a
tied up.
plane.
It's true. They weren't on a plane.
Yes.
To be fair, I don't know where the snakes were because it's a quick like clip, but like
Yeah,
the assumption is they weren't on a plane.
Yes.
true. Also, a big old face smashing.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, face smashing.
Mm-hmm.
Self-inflicted harm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Okay, but before we get into all of that, because it is a lot, guys, producer Brian, please give us all of the words.
Sure. Hi everyone. Hi YouTube. It's me,
What up?
producer Brian. We are on YouTube. You can find us wherever you get podcasts. We're also on TikTok. We're on all social media, like TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. At Talk Horror Pod. Making strides there in terms of followers. So join the fun. It's more fun than my read of Join the Fun. Um, but yeah,
Ah.
cool beans.
Fantastic. Now, guys, have y'all watched anything in this week, or just Longlegs? Was Longlegs enough for you for this week?
Did we watch anything else? I don't think we did watch anything else.
Unless a video of a real childbirth counts.
Oh, we watched The
Oh.
Watchers.
Oh,
Oh yeah, you're like, we went to a delivery birth class and watched like a delivery. I'm like, we watched The Watchers.
Well, Brian was excited about the delivery.
Well, I was so the in high school when you watch the delivery video, I was out that day because in high school the musical would perform all day for English classes. So English classes would leave and it's like a little bit of like, internal marketing, if you will, for like to everyone to come see the musical. And we would do like the same scene over and over again all day. But that happened to be the day that they were showing the birth video in health class. So I had never seen that like birthing video. And I didn't seek it out. So yesterday or this past weekend when we did like a birthing 101 type of class,
Yeah.
I watched it.
Oh man, how did that make you feel? Are you ready? Are you prepared? Listeners,
Yeah,
if
it
you
was
don't know,
fine.
Jamie
It's
is
like
literally about to have a baby.
I like
any day
how
now.
I like how the first person who answered that question was Brian.
It-
Yeah,
yes.
it was totally fine. I'm really glad that video for you was totally fine.
Was
I'm talking.
totally-
No, I'm not talking. I'm
Tell me more about how this pregnancy has been for you,
I'm
Brian.
only talking about like from the father's perspective
Called
of watching
out.
it. It's not like I did not have any adverse reaction to it, so
Mhm.
I'm good. I thought that question was directed at me because I was telling my story about that.
Yes.
That is why I answered it that way in defense of myself.
No, to be fair, I was asking Brian like how since this was his only
I just
first
thought
time
that was
seeing
funny.
it. But
Okay.
I am obsessed. But I am obsessed, Jamie, that you're like, yeah, Brian, tell us about this.
Yeah, tell
pregnancy.
us, how do you feel?
Yeah, let me tell you about how hard this has been on me.
Oh, wait, but okay, so then quick question about that. Jamie, have you gone into the rabbit hole of any other books about birth or any other videos about certain types of pregnancies and stuff like that? Or are you just like, we're just gonna take it how it is?
I have read some of the Emily Oster books.
Mhm.
Like now I'm not going to remember what any of them are called.
Crib sheet and expecting
you.
better.
Yeah, Expecting Better is the pregnancy one. And I like her books because they're really like grounded and
Yeah.
reference a lot of like statistics and just like research based things.
Mhm.
So if you're someone who has a lot of anxiety, hello. It's helpful to just like have things that kind of ground you versus like assuming everything terrible is going to happen during your pregnancy. And I do think that
Absolutely.
like there are mostly like positive birth stories that are happening on a regular basis, but like
Mhm.
some of the more like alarming ones just tend to be louder. That doesn't necessarily mean that like that's more common. So
Yeah.
a helpful reminder to us all.
Absolutely. And sometimes I think would I want to just know less information and so that my brain doesn't spiral into all the other things. But
Mhm.
it is also good to have, like you said, the information of all of the safe and positive pregnancy stories out there as opposed to all the ones that you said like are louder. But that is
Yeah.
a lot of information, and girl, kudos to you. I'm so excited for all the things for this little baby, and it's going to be
Little
fantastic.
baby.
And I can't wait for all of the horror cute pictures and outfits that you're going to be putting him in. So fun.
yeah.
Yes. Fantastic. Well, let's get into Longlegs because I feel like we have a lot to say about this, but we need a plot summary of it. So, producer
Yes.
Brian, could you please give us a 2-minute plot summary of Longlegs?
Happily.
What's the plot?
All right, producer Brian, you have 2 minutes on the clock to tell us how long were those legs. Are you ready?
Ready.
Steady, go.
Okay, so Longlegs is about a FBI agent named Lee Harker, played by Micah Monroe. She has this like kind of clairvoyance, where she just has a feeling in her gut when things are going to go wrong or where things are. And because of this, she's been put on the case of Longlegs. This takes place in the 90s. Lots of Bill Clinton, so you know. And all of a sudden, she's put on this case because she has this like a special ability, if you will. She's a very young FBI agent, but she's put on the case. And Longlegs is the serial killer, has been working since like the 70s, where it turns out that when Longlegs strikes, the father kills the family and then kills himself, and then a demonic kind of letter is left there signed Longlegs. We she is able to crack the code of like and he's killing people either 6 days before or 6 days after the 9th birthday of a kid. So what we find out is that Longlegs had actually visited Micah Monroe's character as a kid, and so she finds a photo of him, hands it into the FBI, and they catch him. They interrogate him. He says like he's working for the man downstairs, and to ask her mother, who is a little bit troubled. She's a hoarder. She's very religious, and so she goes home and investigates her mom, and essentially her mom kills her partner at the time, and we find out that Longlegs has been Longlegs convinced her mother to be the accomplice and deliver these dolls with orbs in their head with a little bit of the devil in it, and that takes control of the father, and the father does all these evil deeds. She ends up killing her mother, and the movie ends with her at her boss's house, trying to shoot the doll but can't because she ran out of bullets. The end.
Yeah.
And that's the plot.
That's it. Great.
There's a lot of other stuff in there that I missed. Like there was a girl who was kidnapped and they get information from her, and just the vibe and tone. I just did plot. Obviously that's the summary, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll get into all of this stuff. Let's start with our first segment of likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
So I would like to start. I feel like this will be short, and I'm sure that you will have much to add to what I have to say. I will start off. I was organized today, felt organized, and so I have my list of likes and then my list of gripes, as opposed to me just going off the rails like I always do. So my likes for this. I love that every time there's a flashback, it's in the square frame. I just really think that it adds to the time period. Totally. And I like when a movie breaks up its framing. Still so funny to me, all the shots of Bill Clinton to be like 90s.
Yeah, totally.
I thought there was beautiful shots of Lee in her little cabin that she was in. Like, I thought that whole scene was really fun to watch, like her running out and being outside in the woods and stuff. I just really thought that was shot very nicely, like aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. Loved it. I thought it was kind of cool, and this might have just been me and my brain, but I thought it was cool that you could hear like a faint dial tone every time Lee was talking to her mom, like when they were in the cabin or whatever. It just made you feel like there was another presence. Or when I was watching it at first, I was thinking maybe like Lee's mom isn't real and she's making all this stuff up. Like,
I thought that too for a moment. Yeah. I did think that like Lee's mom was a figment of her imagination.
Yes. Interesting. Because you could hear that dial tone like so presently while she was on there, and I was like,
yeah.
Or is it just like a 90s aesthetic? But that's not really like how phones were. I mean, we grew up in the 90s. My phone didn't hear a dial tone.
but also, I think that's a part of the tension that this movie builds really well. I think that's a part of the tone, and the sound design in this movie is great. Like, I totally agree with you that all that stuff is really engaging and kept me hooked.
Yeah, absolutely. I do love the concept of the killer not killing people, and that there was a third party that was the thing that led to all of these murders. And I love a doll. Dolls are cool and creepy, and I am a fan. I thought they were like well made and looked cool and stuff. But the overall is that I love the concept of that the killer is not actually killing these people.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last like of this is the first 30 minutes of this I loved,
Yeah.
with the setup and the
Me too.
tension. And even you just said it, Brian, but in my notes it says the building, the tension building with the sound effects. I really loved, and I just love a police thriller movie in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I don't like action police shoot 'em up movies, if it's like a thriller and the police is trying to like find
Yeah.
out who did it, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm down for that.
Totally.
I'm here for it. Okay, so now that's all my likes. This is my gripe. Number one, hat on a 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 hat. We talk about this all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
it feels like there was so much going on in this movie that it strangled itself from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And literally I was like, okay, is this a police whodunit? Is this a satanic panic? Is this a murderous doll? Is this a creepy man slasher? Because all of it was in one thing, and it had me very confused. The tone of Nicolas Cage's character seemed so out of place with the rest of the movie. I was not a fan of his character at all in this, and I really enjoy him as an actor, but I just did not like this performance. I thought that some of the scenes seemed like a mockery. Like his scenes felt like if Scary Movie was mocking this movie, that would have been his character. That's what it felt like.
Oh, damn. That's
you know what
such
I mean?
a good. Yeah.
Yay. Yeah. So yeah, that's truly what I felt like in this. The letters didn't make sense to me as something that like really moved the plot forward, because like it just seemed the letters were there for her to figure something out and not necessarily something that was meant to further the narrative of the killer, if that makes sense.
So to your point, Nikisha, I wrote on my list that Micah Monroe's character had little to no agency in this movie. Like, it's not enjoyable when your lead FBI agent really has no impact over anything except for finding the Polaroid to like bring him in. Like the Clarice Starling in Silence of the Lambs movies like is actually solving and figuring out the case, whereas like and finds Buffalo Bill, whereas like Micah Monroe's character has no impact on the case at all except for finding the Polaroid realistically, and that's not fun to watch, and that's not enjoyable to watch, you know, in general, you know what I mean?
No, I absolutely agree, because it's just like what was the point of it except for finding out the date of when they were going to kill again? But I was just so confused at like, well, then why is she getting a personal letter? Like, does he want to be found out? What is that connection? And like, and to your point, that's right, Brian. It's like all she had to do was really just find this Polaroid, and then they got the guy.
Yeah, and I also think that like the Micah Monroe character in general like doesn't, I don't know, it's just a point of entry for us, and then it's boring. If your main character is having everything happening to them, there's no action and it's boring. The tone maybe kept some people through the whole time, and it kept me through the first 40 minutes or whatever it is. But then once the plot came in, and I'm not saying that I was, quote, confused by the plot. I actually found it very predictable once they gave you 1 to 2 pieces of information.
I put that too, yeah.
Yeah, like when he says like her birthday's the 14th, we see that opening, and then the 13 is the only missing one. It's like, yeah, of course her mom is the third person. Like you handed it to us in a silver platter, so the reveal is not interesting. You know what I mean? And well, I'll get into my sorry, I'm cutting, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. Sorry.
Yes. No. I agree. Like, yeah, it doesn't make it interesting. You said 2 things about it slowing down, and that's what I put too. Like after the first 30-40 minutes, like especially when we're following Nicolas Cage, when we're following Longlegs, I'm just like, I'm bored in this, and I literally looked at my watch to see what time it was, to see if this was like a 2-hour long movie, because I'm like, this is still going on? Like, what are we doing? What's happening? And then to your other point of it being predictable, it's like, oh yeah, the father's killing all this stuff. And the minute you meet Underwood and his family, you're like, oh, he's going to be one of the next
Well,
victims.
yeah, and then the daughter says, "Will you come to my birthday?" I was like, I know how this movie's ending.
Yeah. It was just so disappointing. Like, I don't want to guess this. And also I will say, like, I wouldn't say that this is trailer failure, because the trailer sets you up for like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen, but the images are cool, like this concept looks cool, like here we go. But
Yeah.
really but then the delivery of the movie is just like, you just showed us all the exciting parts in the trailer, and now everything else is just kind of like thrown around.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think this is trailer failure. And quite frankly, I don't think this is marketing failure, because I think the marketing did an excellent job of setting up the tone and like how and what this movie is potentially going to be about, and get you in that like zone for what this movie is going to be. I think, say that again, Jamie.
The AutoZone.
The AutoZone, of course.
Yes.
I think that the first half hour of this movie, setting it up to be a Silence of the Lambs cat and mouse thriller with a supernatural aspect, was not delivered in the end, and therefore not very satisfying for me and did not scratch the itch. I think the first half of this movie is exclusively this like this cat and like is trying to set something up a little bit more interesting, and in the end I just think the we'll get into that, but that's what I think. Sorry,
disagree with you.
Do you
really?
Yeah, I think it is exactly that, and supernaturally. I think the problem is the thing that you don't like, you just can't get over. But I think it does deliver on Silence of the Lambs, but make it supernatural.
And you're just saying he doesn't like that.
There's like a thing that Brian will get into with his gripes, because we talked about it when we walked out of the movie, that I feel like that's part of the problem. But I don't know. I dug it. But I'll wait my turn.
Yes,
I just wanted to say that I disagreed with Brian in that moment.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. So the last couple of things, there was just some plot points that I thought met a dead end. Like, what was the point of the whole devil triangle, like making the dates? Like, after the last one was like the devil gonna come walk the earth or something. So that plot point just kind of like fell through. That wasn't a thing. And maybe because that's not like what is important or what it's about. But if you made such a big deal about like deciphering all of those letters, and then it forms this like triangle devil image, and it's like, okay, well then what's going to happen? Like, there were no stakes except for just like, I mean, the stakes of finding the killer, yes, but like, what are the bigger stakes if you're going to put all of this other stuff about these letters and these symbols of it all? So I just didn't like that, because I felt like it didn't follow through with that. Also, what was just funny to me is that Lee guesses the right house one time, and then they take her in and they're like, oh, intuition test. You can figure out all these things. Like, to me, that just seemed a little like too much. And then it's like, oh, is her intuition the devil? Is that what you're trying to say? Like,
also no witnesses. Like, anyone could have lied. Like, I told him that was the house. Like, oh, okay, officer.
Right. That just all seemed like you just needed the point of her.
Good scene, though.
Intuition. Yeah, very good.
Great scene.
Which was in the first 30-40 minutes of the movie. And you're like, okay, yeah, here we go. Yeah. And then also to your point of like, no witnesses, like no one is seeing a nun leave the house at all to identify that like before these murders happened, like someone left the house. That was just hard for me to believe. Already talked about predictable with Blair Underwood. Already said it. Yeah, it slowed down for me. And yeah, I just feel like this movie could have been one of the 5 things that it was. And I don't think that Nicolas Cage needed to be in this movie. Yeah, if you want to have your satanic element of it, like supernatural and police cop, like great. But I think there was just other things in there that just didn't, I that I just didn't like, that didn't flow well for me watching this movie. It just didn't feel like there was a complete point that happened. So I was not a fan of this movie. I was disappointed. But yeah, those are my likes and gripes. Brian, Jamie, you can fight over who goes next.
No, Jamie, you go next.
Okay.
So one fun thing to add is that Brian and I saw this as our first 35 millimeter movie screening. There was a
Nice.
special screening at the Philadelphia Film Society where Neon had sent just a couple theaters across the country, I think, had gotten copies of this movie in 35 millimeter. And it was, and it like, it had sold out so quickly that then they offered like a second showing, which also sold out. So again, just a reminder, people will buy tickets to horror movies. Please
will.
keep making them. There is money to be made in
Yes.
horror. We will show up and see and pay for your movies.
And they're doing a cuckoo event in 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
fantastic.
cool too. Because
Yeah.
that's also Neon, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Neon. Hit up Philly. We want you to send us
Right.
more movies.
What movie theater was this that did that?
It's like the main, like the Philadelphia Film Society has like, I think 3 different theaters in the city. And this is
Oh,
like
cool.
their flagship main location.
Got it.
So yes, Longlegs. A lot of people's most anticipated horror movies of the year. Perhaps not for everyone, but for me, I think that this is definitely in the top 3. I found it vibey. I found it weird. I found it very scary. I like had the, I was like, okay, it's giving Silence of the Lambs for sure. But as soon as they started introducing the like intuition, weird vibes stuff, I was like, I'm into this because I didn't need it to be Silence of the Lambs. I think
For
that
sure.
would have actually disappointed me more if it just felt like it was trying to rehash something that's like already so iconic. Like, put your own spin on it. And I very much think that Osgood Perkins delivered, which also another fun aside, we all collectively had this like oh shit moment when we were about to see the movie of like, oh, who's his dad? Anthony Perkins? How did we not all realize that? I was like, am I the only dummy? And everyone's like, wait, what? And so that was fun. So
didn't
you
know
know,
either.
big shoes to fill.
For sure.
Big old shoes to fill, and for me, I really enjoyed this movie. I will also say I did not spoil it for myself. I feel like I need to add that disclaimer because sometimes I do that for some of the movies we see, but I did not, because I really genuinely was like, I'm all in. I'm subjecting myself to whatever happens to me here.
Yay.
So I really, we've talked about a couple other like horror crime procedurals. Like that's like such a fun subgenre to me. The way that they're able to intertwine both the like fact finding and like problem solving of it all, while also making it deeply scary and like suspenseful. And like there's definitely some jump scares, and I'm sure we'll talk about, that are like very disturbing. At least I thought they were disturbing. But I was, I think, a lot more willing to like let go when the way that they introduced the like intuitive, clairvoyant kind of vibe. I think they did it early enough where all the subsequent weird supernatural stuff felt totally fine for me. And it did not bother me at all. I was like, yeah, sure. Satan orbs, I'm all in. Tell me more about Satan orbs. Because as soon as like there was a scene where
Do you mean
they find
devil balls?
Sorry, devil ball.
Yes.
Please correct me. But as soon as they find the doll in the barn, and like unearth it, and then the guy the guy's just like, oh my god, like let me tell you all about the making of this doll, which I thought was really funny. That was like a nice little like comedy relief moment. But he was like, oh, this ball, like it doesn't do anything. But then like you see her kind of have that like weird snake reaction in the moment, so it's like clearly that's not entirely true. And so again, I still was kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'm into it.
Which I'm so like surprised. I'm sorry that you were okay with like the intuition stuff, because I thought that for sure you'd be like, absolutely not. But hey, that's great that you
No,
enjoyed it.
I think because I'm like really into like highly sensitive people, and so like this kind of feels like the like taking that a step further kind of vibe. It's like I think that people are highly intuitive. This is like being portrayed in like a movie, so it's gonna take a different like it's gonna up the ante. But I think that's kind of where my brain was like okay with it, because I was like, yeah, I think that like people, have gut feelings, and like all kinds of weird things have happened to people where it's like I just like felt something really off, and I listened to that little voice, and then like I was okay. Whereas like something terrible could have happened. So I feel like that kind of also made it a little bit more believable for me to just like lock in and accept whatever this movie was giving me. So but I do think that the timing for me of like when she immediately like it goes, that's the house for sure. And then I knew that the guy was going to get shot in the head, and I almost said it out loud in this quiet theater. But I didn't, because it happened like at the same time that like my mouth was about to make the sound of like he's going to get shot.
Right.
So like even though I knew it was going to happen, it still like got me. So I also feel like even though there's some things that you mentioned that like do feel like, yes, there are many things about this movie that are kind of predictable. Again, I still was like really engaged. It's still really like not I don't know if shocked me is the right word. I mean, there are surprising moments, but I feel like despite its predictability, I still just felt super locked in and like allowed myself to like react to the scary moments. I definitely jumped like several times. Brian can attest to it, because I was probably squeeze gripping his hand super hard for a good chunk of the movie.
Yeah.
As I do, especially in movie experiences. I do that way more than at home, because I feel like, oh, I'm safe. No one's going to like attack me in my house. Longlegs isn't going to be like, oh, I'm using my long legs in our house.
Right.
So I'm
Let me get to Philly.
I'm much less worried about his long legs.
Yes.
Oh, also really want to shout out surprise feature of Kieran and Shipka.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes.
That was really fun. She was really weird. Like super weird.
We were talking about her before the movie because she's in his other movie, The Black Coat's Daughter, and when she showed up, we both you could feel the energy around us go like, oh
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
She was a nice surprise.
Unexpected, and very weird.
Very.
And yeah, I feel like for me, this movie met the hype. I don't feel like this movie was overhyped. I feel like that's kind of a big question now that it's come out, where it's like it had this like big viral marketing campaign, which also huge like for me. More horror movies, please. I have no idea what the financing is for any marketing related thing. However, it does seem like the least expensive way to market your film, when you like buy a phone number and like tell people like call this creepy number, or like buy a website and fill it with like weird creepy FBI photos. Like I will eat that shit up like yum yum yum. Like I want that for every horror movie experience. I find it so compelling, and it like digs into my brain. I'm like, I have to know what's going on with this. So
well, yeah, because now you feel like you're a part of it, really, because it's such an interactive thing to do, that when you're in the theater, it's like you have even more of like an attachment to this because of all the other interactive stuff.
Yeah, it's like Longlegs made the doll of me, and now I am connected to him.
Yes.
But so I was like kind of debriefing this with like articles and videos and things of just like what did I watch, and I kind of like this idea of with the what do you call it, devil ball
Devil balls.
devil balls.
Yeah, with the devil balls, that like there's always something drawing her to Longlegs. like because the doll continues to exist, her doll in particular continues to exist. And like that's part of the connection of the intuitive thing, but it's like there's something that's like a part of him that is also connected to her. And so like that's I am willing to buy that as the explanation of why she's like always in the right place at the right time, or always just like is drawn to the correct thing at any given time. It's their existing link as a result of like what happened in her childhood that she doesn't remember, but like it's that connection that is constantly drawing her to make decisions that gets her closer to him. um I will say though that like I guess a gripe that I might still have, but it doesn't bother me that much, is kind of just like what's the end goal, kind of like what Nikisha was implying of like what's the outside of like murdering all of these people and planting devil balls everywhere, like what's the purpose of all of this, what's the point, outside of I mean like then I think the reason why I like also don't care is like he's just like hail Satan at the end, right? Like he's just trying to cause as much chaos in Satan's name as possible. So there's the other part of me that's like, who fucking cares? Like he said he did exactly what he wanted to do, and he did it with like this delineated idea of like the triangle and this and like whatever. But like maybe it's just complete chaos, and he just wanted to like cause as much panic and distress and chaos and mayhem as he could, knowing that at some point like it would come to an end. And like
Yeah, and he kills himself like in that moment because like he's done. He did it.
Yeah.
Like he served his purpose,
Yeah.
that and that type of thing. So
Yeah.
I yeah.
So I mean, I feel like in some ways like it doesn't need to be any more complicated. It's just like, yeah, he did what he set out to do, and like that's that. And obviously like in the wake of that leaves so much other stuff, like Micah Monroe, like, discovering that her mom is the accomplice, and then like having to murder her mom. And whatever will come from that, but like probably trauma. But
All the
I
trauma.
feel like but yeah, it's like even that it's like, okay, Longlegs is gone, your mom is gone, now you have to like carry the weight of this like forever. And like another thing that Longlegs left behind, like that's his legacy. So I feel like all of that is pretty disturbing. And for someone who also like doesn't really love it when horror movies end on like a dismal ending, I kind of dug it because it was just like, yeah, like this is all so fucked. This is just what it is. And I don't know. I just feel like it really, for me, it scratched an itch. Definitely a top for moi.
Okay. Nice. Fantastic. Brian?
I really liked this movie. I did. And I think I will really, really like it on a second watch. This first watch did not do it for me. But I thought it was I do want to state that I did like this movie. I thought the score was amazing. I thought all of the acting, what's his name? Nick Cage didn't bother me, but I understand why he can. I totally get that. 90s cop drama, the tone overall, some of the jump scares were outstanding, like the mom with the gun moving behind the car, or her finding the Polaroid, or just the whole opening sequence where all of a sudden like he's right next to her. I also thought something I really liked about this movie is I think that the director does an excellent job of putting you in the room with everyone, whether it's in the interrogation room or whether it's in the yard next to Nick Cage, or whether it's in her house when she's talking to her mom, whether it's at the police precinct, whatever it is. Even like when she like that, the claustrophobia of that hallway that's at the beginning of her house, at the front of her house, like it makes you feel like you're in the room with them at all times, and I really liked that. I liked I just dug all of that stuff. I liked, like Nikisha said, the changing of aspect ratio to show what time we're in. I liked the flashes of the snakes and then with the red tint and all of that. I thought that was really good. I liked the whole entire, plot around Revelations, and the 666 and the triangle and the three sides of evil, whether it's like the devil, the prophet, and all of that stuff, the mom being the prophet. Like, I think it's very clever, and I really dug this. And even though I said it was predictable, I really was hooked the whole time. I was. Even though I guessed it and all of that, like that guessing stuff to me doesn't bother me and doesn't ruin the experience for me. But I think there's so much good in this movie. I even like the introduction of the intuition, and I like the idea of like, is this the ambiguous nature of the intuition. I liked all of that stuff. I think the Micah Monroe was fantastic in this. But at the end of the day, evil isn't as scary to me as people are. And the second that it is evil that did it, it undercuts everything for me. To me, people being monsters in the name of an evil that may or may not exist is way more terrifying to me than an actual evil. Like,
I get that.
If you made this is for me, this is why I didn't scratch the itch. All of a sudden, the mystery wasn't interesting. I don't think it was nearly as interesting as the movie set it up to be. The devil balls. If the devil balls, the one shot of the movie that bothered me the most is when the mom shot the Micah Monroe doll, and and that puff of black came out of the ball. That shot ruined the movie for me, because I would believe that like maybe there's a pitch of that ball
In that
in the head that like makes people do things. Like I would have totally bought into that. But the second that is evil, I'm just like, oh, this is the same reason I don't think exorcism movies are scary, because because it's not real. Like there's a I know that none of this is real. None of these horror movies are real, but there's a I know. So I know. And I think I'll really enjoy this on a rewatch, but I also could not get behind her not shooting the doll first. If she knew that these things, and I think there's some ambiguity there where like maybe she didn't realize that when the doll was shot, like it affected her and stuff like that. But I think that she is smart enough to realize that she was connected to that doll, just as the Kiernan Sherper character was connected to that doll with the orb. And I just don't believe that her first instinct in that room with her boss's wife, and the kid was to shoot the doll. I just don't. When that happened with her mom, not a couple hours beforehand, that to me, that decision making did not feel real to the character, and that whole last scene was completely overcast with that. I just couldn't believe that. I could not believe that she would go into that room with her gun, holding it, and not shooting the doll. I also really liked when she went in, the like evil was on the door. Like there was that like dark shadow when she walks into their house.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
I liked the like eyes fading into that dark. I liked all that stuff, but this is not the movie that I wanted it to be, and that's a me problem, and that does not scratch the itch. And there's a lot of things I really like about this movie, but at the end of the day, I'm into a supernatural procedural. I just don't think that this movie narratively was strong enough, then as strong as its tone and feeling of like Doom Forever, and that I really liked about it. But I just couldn't get into the devil balls and the way that they were presented. But on another rewatch of this movie, knowing what this movie is, similarly like Malignant, where the first time I watched it, I was like, this is awesome, but like, what the fuck is happening? This is not what I expected, but I still was able to have a good time with it. And the second Malignant viewing, so much better. because I kind of knew what to expect in some ways, but I
So
liked
good.
I like that. That's okay with me to not fully accept what it is the first time. But if we're just talking about our first viewings, this was a really good horror movie that did not scratch the itch for me. And like, I'm going to repeat myself. At the end of the day, evil, real evil,
Dies
religious
tonight.
evil, what'd you say? Dies
Evil
tonight.
dies tonight.
Yes.
Is not as scary to me as is people doing awful things in an ambiguous evil's name.
Mm. And I'll just add, I wasn't even mad that she didn't shoot the doll first. I was mad that she let Blair Underwood drag his wife into the kitchen, knowing that he was about to kill
What was
her,
going to happen?
and didn't shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made me mad in that scene. And in that moment, I was like, yeah, now I'm completely over it. I will have to say, I just didn't like this. I just didn't like this movie.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't think
totally.
Which is good. It's good that we have these discussions when we all have different opinions about it. But this just, I don't want to watch this again. I don't think a second watch will do it for me. It just completely, I can't say I expected a certain thing. All I can say is that what I watched, I did not. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And that's cool
totally.
if it's for people. Like, I totally get it. Listen, we had the conversation about Lisa Frankenstein, that I loved it and that wasn't a favorite of some of y'all's, but it's just like, there's just some things you like and you don't. And, like Brian said, it didn't scratch the itch, but it also just didn't do anything for me, except the first 30 minutes.
I will say, if this movie didn't have the hype around it and we saw it, I would have been like, damn, like that was really interesting. Like, what a cool thing. But because this was supposed to be the horror movie of the year, and it just didn't scratch the itch for me, like,
no,
at all.
Yeah.
But I did have some favorite quotes in this film.
Oh, please share.
At the very end, speaking of Blair Underwood, when like, oh, I'm coming back, you'll stay there.
Oh,
like,
that was
a good line. And it's the USA. Believing in Satan is okay, or whatever that line was.
Right, because they can't convict you.
Yeah.
With that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted to. I think my main problem is I really wanted to like this movie more than I did, and that's a bummer. But like, hey, I like what I like, and
right.
I will choose. In terms of my favorite horror movie of the year, like, nothing is going to come close to I Saw the TV Glow. I don't think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's not
still
true.
Have a couple
there's
months,
some good stuff, like
Right.
Nosferatu. I'm excited. I think that could do it. Like, one of my favorite current directors with like a horror, like a universal monster. It's not, but it is. Like, I'm super pumped about that. I think I'm gonna really like Cuckoo. I just have a feeling that that's gonna be more up my neon alley than this one.
And then whatever that trailer was, with the girl who goes out on a date and sleeps with the guy, and then that he like kidnaps her or something, or she's like, I hope you're not I have to ask you if you're a serial killer or not. And then like he ends up being one, and she's like running around trying to escape him. I don't know what it's called, but it was in the trailers when I saw Longlegs and for Maxine, and I had never seen anything else about it except for when I saw the trailer.
Oh, that's interesting.
In the theaters, I'll have to find find it and send it to you
because
guys.
we didn't get trailers for Longlegs.
We only got the Cuckoo trailer.
Okay, well, yeah, they got Cuckoo, Trapped. Actually, guys, since we're on this, what I thought that I would not like, but the trailer got me: Alien Romulus. I was like,
oh yeah, it's a good trailer, right?
This is a really great trailer, and I am invested. And y'all know I'm not too particular about like Alien, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
But I was super into that. It's like, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot of good stuff, and we're just happy that horror movies are making money, so that more horror movies can be made. At the end of the day, we are happy about this,
and
we will attend and we will watch them.
I think there's what I really like about the horror genre in general is that fear is subjective. So like, opinions on horror is so much more interesting to me than opinions on like dramatic movies, because it's like you may like one, you may not like one. The plot line might not be as interesting, but like, a well-made, narratively crafted drama is going to like be effective or not, whereas a horror movie is effective truly based on the subjective nature of, does this frighten you? And
Exactly.
evil in movies and stuff does not frighten me without like some sort of a more interesting human element, if you will.
Can I ask then, so with like movies like The Conjuring that have that aspect, but you tend to like those, yeah? Or no? Do you still feel the same way about
Yeah, but they don't the jump scares and the eerie stuff like scare me, but
Okay.
like the haunted house of The Conjuring scares me way more than the exorcism at the end. The exorcism at the end is like, whatever, this is stupid, but like just because that's how I feel about exorcism movies in general. Whereas the like creaks in the house and the guys coming and like doing the photo stuff and like the thing above the dresser and the claps, like those to me are very scary, because we've all been in basements, like scary basements before. We've all felt like someone's watching us while we're sleeping at night, you know, like that kind of stuff. But like the exorcism is just like something that doesn't get to me, you know. Like I don't find the Exorcist scary, because like exorcisms to me are like, what, you know, like I mean, now
they're not relatable. I mean,
they're not,
for lack of a better word, like
yeah,
like you're saying, the relatableness, not a word, but the relatability of the Conjuring movies is the house aspect and being alone in your house or things happening in your house. But if it's just an exorcism, it's like, what is it that's connecting me to this?
Yes.
You know, if you're not, especially if you're not a religious person in that sense, it's like that's not what's connecting you to the horror and the fear in this.
But on the flip side, movies that really fuck me up are movies that take away the main character's like decision making and autonomy, like Possessor, like that stuff. Like even though that's a lot of sci-fi and supernatural, like I buy into that immediately, because same thing with Brendan Cronenberg's other one that we covered, Infinity Pool. Like there's interesting themes, but like at the end, James, but at the end of the day, like that stuff freaks me out more. Like the evil of people like freaks me out more than like the actual evil. I think that stuff is cool, but like it freaks me out way less than that other stuff. But that's me. Yeah. That's my individual feelings on stuff. But I think this is a really well made, fantastic movie that just like didn't do it for me in the end.
Yeah. All is fair in love and horror.
All right. So. CBS, all right.
Fantastic. All right. Anyone else have any lasting comments before we move on?
No? Oh, okay. Micah Monroe's Serial Killers is an excellent genre of film.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
We should actually cover The Watcher at some point on this podcast.
Okay.
At some point.
We'll get to it.
What did we cover? The Watcher?
There's a lot.
Okay.
And not to be confused with The Watchers, which sucks.
Which is a TV show. Right?
No, The Watchers was the M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's horror movie that came out earlier this year. No, I'm talking about the other Micah Monroe serial killer movie. The Watcher. You watched it, didn't you? On Shudder? Where she feels like she's being watched from across the way.
And her boyfriend is like, no, you're fine. And
yeah, the gaslighting.
Okay, yes. I thought that we covered that, but maybe just because
we were gonna do it, and then for whatever reason we didn't. But I still would like to, because I think that movie is right up Talking Horror's alley.
Yes, that movie was fantastic. Yes, okay.
And Chloe Akuno directed it, and she also did Hail Ratma. And if this movie if he had said Hail Ratma at the end instead of Hail Satan, I would have been like, "Fuck this movie, fucks."
Oh.
I'd be like, "Hey, we did it! We're mainstream, Ratma, we're back, baby!"
Which VHS is that one from?
Ratma's from VHS 94.
It's like 3 ago.
86?
Yeah.
Oh god, there's so many.
Which
and
one
the new one.
The new one?
So excited.
Yeah, VHS 94. I like VHS 94.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to our next segment. Brains. Tasty, tasty.
Brains.
Lots of brains on the inside and outside of this movie. But my question to you, Jamie, is can we, since we haven't done it in a while, Billy or Stu, Mom and Longlegs, please?
Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative. It's a scream, baby.
Billy or Stu.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's a good question because I think the way it's
Good question.
presented-
Good question.
Good
Good question.
I think that the way that it's first presented
Mm-hmm.
is more Stu because she's given an option to like take this on or die
Right.
and chooses like I'll do this so that myself and my child will survive.
Yes.
But I feel like over time perhaps things take a turn and perhaps she's a little bit more into it than she originally let on. That's kind of the vibe because like why follow through with the last one when Longlegs is dead? Like to what
Oh,
end?
yeah.
Because she's like, I have to do this so that we don't go to hell, and it's like,
Right.
how did we get here? So I feel like she maybe buys into it a little bit more. So maybe there's like a shift from a Stu more into a Billy.
Okay. Love that. And
Perhaps.
Longlegs, would he be, since he's in like
He's
a
a Billy.
worker of the devil? Billy too?
He's the mastermind behind all of this. He organized everything.
Yes.
He's a Billiam.
He's a Billiam. So two for one Billies here.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 for 2 Billies here. Fantastic. My next question is, do you think knowing that you have strong intuition is something that can be helpful or harmful to your mental health? Ooh, spicy.
Good question.
I mean,
Good question.
Good question.
2 for 2.
Maybe I'm biased. I feel like it's helpful.
Yeah.
But I think that like, you know, perhaps there could be situations where it does feel more overwhelming. Like if you are more sensitive to things, then how might that kind of feel like overwhelming or like debilitating at times?
Yeah.
And so I think it's like, how are you like tapping into this while also like protecting yourself? I think is one way to think about it. Because like it doesn't seem like up until the point where she is assigned that first case for the FBI and like witnesses her partner get murdered. It doesn't seem like she's totally traumatized by this like weird intuition. I mean, we don't like we're just kind of thrown into it. She's definitely a little kind of like standoffish, which I imagine is part of it, but also she has like a terrible memory because of everything else. So it's like, is that also playing into it? But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's probably a lot of compartmentalizing that has to happen as a result in order to like function through life, knowing that you might be taking on a lot of things. So I feel like that's like an important thing to probably keep in mind is like, how are you protecting yourself like from feeling totally overburdened at times by this like sensitivity to things?
Yeah, because it could definitely feel like a big weight on you, like you said, to hold all of this in. And yeah, definitely try not to compartmentalize. That's what I felt in thinking of this question. I was like, I think I would kind of go a little insane because I would also feel like, okay, is this actual intuition or is this anxiety? Like, where's this really coming from?
Like,
So, like,
but also
what
like I
wanna
need
know.
to get on that plane, you know, like, but I'm feeling weird about it. I don't know.
But I'm feeling
Then do
weird
you get
about
Final
it.
Destination? I don't know.
I can't.
Yeah, that's
why
like
I
a
hate flying.
compartmentalize. Don't think. But also it's like how do you how do you distinguish between hypersensitivity versus like irrational thoughts?
That's what I'm saying.
Because then you're introducing the am I anxious because I don't like flying and now I'm thinking about all the terrible things that could happen?
Yes.
Or am I tapping into something that's telling me that something bad's gonna happen? But that's part of anxiety, is anxiety is trying to protect us from scary things, but also sometimes it's operating a little bit on overload, and
it gives you the worst situation possible.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to prepare yourself for the worst situation possible, but
Right.
the likely, just because you can conjure it up in your brain, conjuring doesn't necessarily mean that that is the most likely thing to happen. And that's an important distinction to make. I can trust me, I can think of 5 terrible things that can happen to me right now in this exact millisecond. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that any or all of them are going to happen. Brian's smiling because he's like, yeah, you probably came up with 10. You're so good. But just because I can think about these things doesn't necessarily mean that those things are likely to happen. And so that is an important thing to, it's a helpful way to reframe when you are having scary, anxious thoughts of yes, I can think about all these worst case scenarios, but what's the actual likelihood that these things will come to pass? Maybe it's really small. What's actually more likely? What are the likely things that, we can probably anticipate will happen in this moment?
I understand, because my brain loves to catastrophize all the things. So,
yeah.
But here's a side question for you, still related. In the feelings of things, have you heard of maybe therapists talking about if you're feeling your anxiety, maybe in your chest, or maybe your intuition is felt more in your stomach, or whatever the case, how do you feel about that kind of framing to kind of determine where those things are coming from?
Yeah. I mean, I I talk a lot with clients just about sometimes people I think are really aware of their thoughts. Sometimes I think people are more aware of their emotions. And I think other people are really aware of physical sensations in their body. I get Sunday scaries and I feel it in my body often, but there is nothing. I'm not
feel
thinking
it
about
in my fingers. I feel it in my toes.
Thank you for the Love Actually reference.
You're welcome.
Oh my god.
It's Summerween. Don't bring Christmas into this, Brian.
Also that.
But Christmas is all around us.
Oh, boo. Tomato. But so yeah, so I think that for me, I know this I'm very aware of my thoughts, but when I have Sunday scaries, nothing is happening. I just feel this tension in my body. I feel my heart feels like it's racing more quickly. It's really hard to focus and concentrate on stuff. So all of these things, I start to know this, but there isn't anything that's concerning. There isn't anything happening. It's literally just a day of the week. Nothing is gonna blow up tomorrow. My job is not stressful. My boss is not a piece of shit, mostly because I am my own boss.
I'm screaming, Jamie, please.
but I still have those sensations, and sometimes the sensations can also then trigger some anxious thoughts where it's maybe I should be worried about my Monday day. Maybe I maybe a bunch of people will cancel on me this week. Maybe this will happen. Maybe that will happen. And noticing those connections, I think is really helpful in dealing with them, for one, but also sometimes sometimes I view anxiety as beyond just the identifying when there's something to be afraid of genuinely and responding to it. That's our biological defense mechanism, is we're always we're going to be on the lookout for things that put us in danger. But sometimes that alarm system is in overdrive, and that's where I think it crosses the line into anxiety, where now we're trying to hypothesize what could the dangers be as opposed to what's actually dangerous in this moment. And that's the awareness to pay attention to, of I think there is a line between things are actually okay right now versus
Mhm.
like, yes, of course the future is unknown and something bad could happen, but like I can't actually stop that. Like I can't do anything about that in
Right.
this current moment. And so like what's actually happening in this current moment, and how can I just like sit with myself and know that like I am not currently in danger and like things are actually okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's so great. Love that. Great answer for the thank you.
Hmm.
Couple more questions. If you had a client that has a close family member who might have done something morally wrong, speaking on Micah's character and her mom, how would you help your client if they're trying to reckon with the question of if they should still keep in contact with this close family member or not? If they've done
Yeah.
something that is like, morally wrong or something against their beliefs or whatever, but they're still family, maybe not necessarily,
Yeah.
murdering individuals, but something of the like. Yes.
Yeah. It's something that also comes up with my clients a lot is like that that like draw to family members because they're family members, even if
Yes.
they do things that might not make them feel good. And so
Mm.
like I do think that there's a lot of layers, like macro and micro layers of pressure around um like staying in contact or maintaining a family relationship. Even if like one of the questions that I like asking now is like, if this person was not related to you, if they were just like a random person, like would that change how you are feeling about this
That's
situation?
great. Yeah.
um
Hmm.
and like most of the time people are like, yeah, I would like never talk to this person ever again. And
Right.
it's like, okay, so like but I think that's a helpful reflection to make of like there clearly is a lot of pressure like societally from, it's like, oh, you're supposed to have this certain type of relationship with your family, with your mom, like all like, that there's this idealized family relationship. Then you might have like cultural pressures, like all kinds of
Mm,
different cultures are like very much like parents are the elders and we must respect them no matter what, and like it doesn't matter how they treat you, we just kind of have to take it and deal with it because that's just the way that it is.
yes.
And like that also doesn't fly for a lot of people. So like I think recognizing, and then there's like comparisons where it's like, oh well, why is my family not like that person's family? And so like it kind of just keeps going and going, and then you might have like individual micro level things that have happened, that are continuing to like come up and stuff too. So it's like there's so many different layers of, I think, the challenge of deciding whether or not to like continue to have somebody in your life that's a family member.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is like a right answer. I think that it you know it depends on like holding all of those things and like ultimately like what someone feels okay with, because they
Yeah.
might still be like, I kind of have to like keep them in my life, and this is the way that it is. Maybe there's space to introduce some boundaries, and like what those boundaries look like might also
Right.
vary based on situation to situation. So like I think that, there's no like simple way to kind of respond to it. It's way more complicated.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I think a good scale is what you said of like, if this was a random person, not your family member, like, how would you respond to
Yeah.
this?
If you were like,
Um,
I'd block them and never talk to them again, it's like, okay,
yeah.
that's good to know.
Right.
So it's like
Exactly.
perhaps like, they're perhaps you're able to recognize that the pressure is just coming from like outside of you, and it's not like
Hmm.
you trying to just maintain this relationship because like you necessarily feel compelled to, like you feel compelled to
Hmm.
because of all of these other reasons.
Right. Yeah. Love that.
Hmm.
And my last question to you is, so the moment that the mom knows her daughter is going to die, like she decides to make a deal with Longlegs and then, is going to just be working for the devil, doing that work
Doing
and
his bidding.
doing his bidding. Um, and it kind of speaks to the mindset of like doing everything for your kid, like sacrificing for your kid and all that stuff. So my question to you is, what could be the psychology behind some parents who would, sacrifice for their kids and others that wouldn't?
Hmm. Well, also as an aside, I know that
Mhm.
she's framing it of like, I did this so that you could grow up. Not everybody gets the opportunity to grow up. She says
Yeah.
something like that.
Yep.
But also, like, she would have died. So it's not 100%
Gotcha.
selfless.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
For
that
sure.
was something I was thinking about of like, you also were at risk of
Yeah.
something bad happening to you. So that's part of why I'm like, maybe over time you kind of got a little bit more into all of this. I don't know. But
But
I
that's a
mean,
good point.
yeah, I guess like that's a really challenging question. Like,
I know
what
it's a
do I
big
think?
question.
I mean, she basically chose. It's the trolley problem in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she chose the personal side as opposed to the
Greater
the
good.
greater or good. She chose to protect the personal as opposed to the greater good, if you will.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because the importance to her was her family and her own life,
Yeah,
as opposed to other people's
but it's
lives.
also probably more complicated than that because she could have just let him die and she would have just they would have kept killing and whatnot. But I guess she's
Mm.
helping to maybe control it. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not the therapist here. I'm not the psychoanalyst here.
No, but I also like don't really know,
Yeah.
what like how parents feel. I mean, also as like a not yet parent,
Yeah.
it's hard to speak to like what limits and like there's so I mean, the hormones of it all, like the implication that like as soon as like my child is born, the immediate like, oh my God, like I've never loved anything, like now I love this little thing.
Right.
And the limits that you would go to for this like tiny little bag of bones that you're now supposed to keep alive.
Mhm.
And so like it's like the hormones of it, it's the all the effort that went into creating it, and then just like wanting it to continue to have its own life.
Yeah. But that's what I was
And
thinking about
whatever.
too. Sorry, because the other side of that
No.
too is when we talked about like what postpartum depression and talking about like sometimes there are moms that it's like they have the child and then it's like they don't have the immediate connection for whatever reason that might be. I guess that's why also I was
Yeah.
thinking about that too, because like there is something to when mothers do have birth and then they don't have that connection with the child, and is that just something that is strictly like postpartum depression, like just something that's psychological that happens that you just can't control,
Yeah, I mean, I think that like there is like a hormonal component to that connection, but I also don't think that like that means like it's going to look the same for everybody. Like hormones, I mean, even like the experience of pregnancy in particular, like we all in theory have the same hormones, but the way in which all of these hormones are like creating mayhem in our bodies does not look the same. And so like even just that I feel like should be an implication that like perhaps not everyone's going to feel the same way. And also look at like non-birthing parents who are not having that same connection to like building like being
Fair.
a bodybuilder, as I've been saying,
Yes.
building something inside of them, and then the experience of like laboring and birthing something, but also like can still have that connection upon like their child being born. So it's not necessary for it to be this like it just happens to like the mom because she's the one that's like carrying the child, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Because like that might not even happen necessarily. But I think like it's I'm still just thinking about like the actual question of like who like what's going on for someone when like they will do anything for their kids regardless of what the consequences are, because I think that's a really interesting thing. Like
Yeah.
I've heard anecdotes not like from clients but just like like largely on Reddit, funnily enough, of just like situations where it's like, oh, this parent like wrote their college essay for their kids. Actually, no, I did hear about that when I was like in high school or college. And it's just like, you know, you're not giving your child the opportunity to like do it on their own. Like you're not actually setting them up for success. So what's like the line between actually supporting them versus hindering them?
Yes.
Because of like the role that you're playing in this. Perhaps working with a serial killer, not
You
the
know.
best not the best course of action.
Right. To help your
But
child.
yeah. But I don't think that people are always thinking about the consequences. They're thinking about the like the short term
Yes.
outcome and not necessarily the long term. But like, yeah, the parents who are like applying for jobs for their kids, the parents who are writing, like doing homework for them, writing essays for them. I just feel like you're not allowing your child to succeed or fail on their own.
Right.
And then it just makes it harder for them to like navigate through life without you, which like maybe you don't want them to, but again, like they're their own person, so they're not always going to be like under your wing for their
Right.
entire lives.
Like they have to make a life for themselves, and are you just going to be there for the rest of their lives to help them along until you're gone? And then when you're gone, like what are they going to do, you know?
Which again then goes back to this question of like, is she sacrificing something for her child? And like, yes, she is, but I do feel like there's a limit, because I think that perhaps like, could she have potentially like stopped at a certain point? Like when does it end?
Yeah.
Like when does she end? Like what's the limit to all of this for her?
Well, the limit doesn't exist, Jamie. That's what the movie said. So.
Yeah, really, it's a Mean Girls situation is what I'm realizing.
But also, like,
but yeah,
he didn't really give her a choice. Like, if you're gonna choose, like, yeah, sure, I'll help you. And then I think the idea is that like you try and figure a way out once you like buy yourself more time.
right?
But she did.
Right.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm like,
She bought into
like,
it. She drank the devil balls.
She was really into the devil balls.
Yes.
Because again, then it's like once he dies, why is she still continuing with this?
Right. Like what is the point of all of this? Like that she needed to finish it.
Well,
you know?
is she believing that if she carries out her duty, then she'll go to heaven? Like it's like this weird like I mean, like I've done so many, I gotta at least finish the triangle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because all of that, it's like, all right, I'll be done and free. Yeah. No, great. That's all that I have for that. Should we rotten tomatin this?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do that.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
All right. What do you think this movie has on Rotten Tomatoes? Nikisha, let's start with you.
I have no idea. I don't know what they thought about this. I'm going to say 73.
All right. Jamie?
I'm going to say 78.
All right. This has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience score is 65%.
Oh.
Saturated,
very divided.
Yeah. So, saturated and disquieting mood while leveraging a nightmarishly gonzo performance by Nicolas Cage. Longlegs is a satanic horror that effectively instills panic. Sure. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. What do you think this has on Letterboxd? As a reminder, it's out of 5 with decimal points. Jamie, why don't you go first?
I'm gonna say like 3, 4.
All right, Nikisha?
I'm going to say 2.8.
This has a 3.7 on Letterboxd.
Wow.
Let me scroll down. Let me find the. Okay, here are the 3 most popular reviews. Obviously, I'm reading this one now. This is obviously being recorded at a specific moment in time. But the third one is, went from watching Joe Biden's press conference straight to this. I've had a long night.
Yes.
God.
The next one. The next one. I don't really know what I expected, but there was way more Bill Clinton screen time than I was both mentally and physically prepared for.
Also, yes.
All right. Trigger warning for real nasty wording in this one. Words. Calling yourself Longlegs as a serial killer is just so cunty, low key. Like, what if I went by Big Fat Juicy Booty Strangler?
Oh my God.
Who is that user?
That user
Shout
is.
them out.
There's. I don't know if this is There's a Hole or Teresa Hole.
Oh my God.
The best.
Oh,
Not There's a
I'm
Hole,
really
but
going
Teresa
on this
Hole.
so I can.
Oh,
find it,
damn.
please.
That's a great drag name, Teresa Hole. Because
Yeah.
put it together. There's a
There's a
hole.
hole. That is so true.
It's a great drag name. Somebody snatch that up. Oh, that
But-
was great, Brian. Wow.
Here are some of their most recent reviews by Teresa Hole or There's a Hole, who I'm absolutely going to follow now.
I'm following.
Um,
I'm following because the first one I saw is so funny.
That is so cunty. Oh, I love that.
Quiet Place Day 1. What if you needed to fart? Crying face, crying face. Saltburn.
Yes.
Great movie to watch with your boss.
Wait, did you see the North by Northwest?
No, bro got that self tanner on. Crying face, crying face, crying face. Man was straight up neon.
It's also
Oh
your
my
reading of
God.
Crying Face, Crying Face. Excellent. Excellent work.
Oh man,
Thanks, Teresa Hall.
some of these are really, really good. Oh man, I don't want to spoil
Now we'll
anything here for anyone, so I won't read the other ones. But damn,
Yeah.
that was a find. I'm so happy that I now follow. this
Wait,
person.
can you read the 5th one down?
I only get
For
4.
long legs.
For long
legs?
legs. For long
Yeah.
legs. The 5th what?
The 5th review.
If I can find it.
I can read it.
Yeah, why don't you read it?
Stomach turning, skin crawling, psychological serial killer indie horror. Shove this up my ass. I fucking love Letterboxd. Everyone's
Yes.
Wait,
unhinged.
here's another good
Everyone
one.
is unhinged.
I shit myself and felt it running down my long legs.
Oh my god. Oh my
People.
god.
Now I
Woo.
gotta get letterboxed. Oh god.
Oh man. Anyway,
Yes.
let's do the 4 S's.
Yes, please. My god.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horns 4 S's.
4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. And then we're doing 1 out of 10 for them. Jamie, why don't you start with skulls, which is human health and mental behavior, and then we'll go from
Nope.
there.
Human
Scratch
health.
that reverse
Human
behavior.
health, yeah, just human health, human behavior, and mental health.
James said no.
Scratch
She's
that,
like, no,
reverse it.
no.
Flip it in reverse.
Okay. For skulls, I don't even know, to be totally honest. I originally have an 8, but I just changed it to a 7.5.
Keep it.
Yeah, I don't know. That feels right.
8 or
Um,
7.5 feels right.
I'm gonna say 7.5.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
For scares, I gave this a 7. I thought it was pretty creeptastic
Mhm.
and terrifying. That first scene when Nick Cage is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm using my long legs. Let me come down," and then it just like cuts to the title card, I think, in that moment, and that made me pee pee poo.
Yeah, that was all really
down my
great.
long legs.
That made you pee pee poo poo down your. I shit myself and it dripped down my lung. Fucking so funny.
Oh my god.
Shit.
And then for shakes, I'm giving this a 7. This is really, I'm chewing on this. I'm really, it's fully locked in my brain right now. So it probably will stick around until whatever the next big anticipated horror is coming out and we get to see, hopefully.
Exciting times.
All right.
Yeah.
Nikisha.
All right.
All right. What about you?
Mine's pretty simple. I have 3s across the board for me.
3s
know.
across the board.
3 for skulls. Yeah. Scary. There was some good stuff, but it wasn't like, oh my god, I'm shitting my long legs like that. I didn't feel that.
Sure.
All
right.
And this
I'm
shakes,
glad.
it's like, yeah,
I'm glad.
I don't need to. It's a
Um,
one and done for me.
I went 6 for skulls, 7 for scares, and 6 for shakes.
Work.
But maybe I should change my scares to 6 so I can have 666.
Hey, no.
Scary.
Don't do that.
All right, so I have a couple of suggestions. If you like Alicia Witt, watch Urban Legend.
Yay.
If you want more of a real spooky procedural, I would watch Zodiac.
I've never actually seen that.
And the
oh wait, or have I? I don't remember now.
And the other movie that I'm going to watch that I haven't seen yet is his other movie, The Black Coat's Daughter, which we'd previously mentioned. I've not seen that, but that just feels like the movie I should be watching after this in terms of to get more of a handle on his style and what he's doing.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't think any of his movies, because I also really want to watch I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House.
Cool. Who wants to go next for suggestiones?
I'll go. Thinking about creepy men, I did Gerald's Game for that little creeper guy.
Oh, sure. Creepy guy in the corner.
Sinister for like family killing family moments.
Oh, yeah. This definitely had sinister vibes to it for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then, even though these kids weren't technically kidnapped, but like a man kidnapping kids, Black Phone.
Sure.
That's all in mind. Jimmy?
Black Phone's a good one. Just because it mixes like what happened with supernatural stuff. And you didn't like it. So it's perfect.
And I didn't like it, so it is perfect. But if you liked this, maybe you'll like Black Phone. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But we didn't.
No, more like the poopy phone. I shit myself and it ran down my Black Phone.
Oh,
gross.
Yes.
I am lazy, and I just went with Silence of the Lambs.
No, I think that's a good one.
I didn't even think that's so funny because I didn't even think about Silence of the Lambs watching.
Well, I only did because the marketing said it.
Oh,
the marketing was like there was a lot of comparisons to this. I don't know if it was the marketing per se, but like there were a lot of comparisons to this being like Silence of the Lambs. As this is the scariest movie you'll ever see. You'll shit yourself in the theater and have it run down your long legs. Like a lot of that for sure.
Hey. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, that wraps up our episode of Long Legs. You can follow us on all of the social medias. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Talk Horror Pod, and
comment and tell us how long your legs are.
Yes,
we're interested.
Let us know if you shit your long legs watching.
Well, no, please keep that information.
No,
to
I
yourself.
want to know.
I just want to know.
I want to know.
All right, so DM Brian.
Well, don't DM. Yeah.
No, DM them and leave me out of it.
Screaming. If we ever get a DM, though, we will absolutely share that with you guys.
Yes.
Fantastic. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
You can listen to us wherever you get your long legs, wherever you get your podcasts, places like YouTube. Hi, YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And
Thank you. Woo!
I think you just need to read that review one more time.
Which one?
The one about him being a cunt.
Oh, calling yourself Longlegs as a serial killer is so cunty, low key. Like, what if I went by the big fat juicy booty strangler? Or I should say, the big fat juicy booty strangler.
It's just so good. Oh, y'all follow them on Letterboxd.
Amazing.
Please.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, big fat Judy, big fat juicy booty. You're a big fat Judy. A big fat Judy booty. I'm gonna stop. I'm so tired.